So maybe before the Q&A with the attendees, we can start our conversation first, just so
Yes.
that maybe you can share a bit about your experience so far within, the Cartier Women Initiative, rather it was as a fellow in the fellowship or rather it is as a jury member.
Yep.
So I think our first question to you was sort of what is your experience with the Cartier Women Initiative and what are some highlights and key lessons that you have learned during this journey? And maybe you could share both sides of the of
Yeah.
your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we became involved. I think in 2011 was the year that we were involved as a candidate, as a fellow. We put in a business application. Certainly, uh, for us, it was quite interesting because at that point in the business, we had never written a formal business plan, although the business was operating and was trading. We hadn't raised funds. So when we got into the Women's Initiative competition, we were required to come up with a formal business plan. We had an amazing mentor who was at INSEAD at the time, who helped us to run through all of the aspects of the business plan and also let us know what kinds of things were missing in the way that we were communicating our ideas. And she also pointed out several things that we should be looking at if we wanted to really progress our mission. Then after that, we found out that we were selected to go through to the final week, which at the time was in Paris. So we had a week of preparation in Paris, which was absolutely incredible because we had, again, a week long of sessions together with all of the other fellows. And we got to know everyone's businesses. We got to work on our presentation skills. We got to generally network and I guess form quite a strong bond, contact with many of the women that I met there. And that's because we are all impact driven entrepreneurs and have a desire for the world to be better. So we formed quite strong relationships. And then we went to a very small French town called Deauville.
Yeah. Oh, you were of the Deauville editions.
Yes, and that is, Deauville is kind of like the old Hollywood part of France, is the only way I can describe it. And and it was really amazing for me to win, and to become a laureate for that year, and just to receive. I mean, I probably can't even explain how much ongoing support that we've received from Cartier over the years, whether that be through press opportunities, further mentoring opportunities. Actually, the former head of Cartier for Europe became despite the fact that he no longer works for Cartier. So we found that actually there was many people who wanted to support what we did and celebrate what we did. And that's why I participate in any of the other activities that we did with Cartier. We actually had a big event here at our site in Kent where many of the UK fellows came together, and we had 2 days together of learning sessions on digital media, which was something that that everyone was quite interested in exploring. So, I just feel like it's never really ended. And now to be on the jury, this is actually the hardest part. The competition was nothing. This is incredibly difficult because there are so many absolutely wonderful businesses, so many outstanding entrepreneurs, and really you want to be able to support all of them. But and that makes it very difficult and emotional for me. But the whole journey has just been really wonderful, and we're very happy to continue to be a part of it.
Oh, great. Well, we're so happy to have you as part of our Cartier family, and specifically both, when you were a fellow, and then now also, of course, as a jury member, contributing back to the community. So so it's very exciting to have you. So how do you think? How do you understand business as a force for good? Because I think, of course, that is fundamentally, I think, what unites us, all of us at the Cartier Women Initiative, which is that we believe that businesses can be a force of good. So maybe can you share a bit about your business and how and why you have designed it as a force for good?
So I think one of the privileges about being an entrepreneur is that you are starting from scratch. So we're not talking about legacy businesses like oil and gas businesses, let's say, that have to be really, really reinvented in order to dramatically reduce our impact on the environment, or dramatically reduce our impact on the people of the world, and make sure that there's no exploitation or degradation. So when you're starting a brand new business, you have this amazing opportunity to design it well from the beginning. And the principles that Elvis and I applied, certainly, and I guess I was definitely the driving force, because I ran the business for about a year and a half before convincing him to come on board, was that you had to solve a problem as the reason for your business. And the problem we wanted to solve was London's damaged, decommissioned fire hoses were going to landfill, and we thought it was a beautiful material, and that it was worth a second life, and it didn't deserve to die in landfill. So the entire business was structured around cherishing and rescuing that material. And once we had done that, then we were thinking about all the other wonderful things that we could do, which are to, really reinvent the idea of luxury. Luxury for us should be about something that is truly innovative, is truly regenerative. We don't use any fossil fuels. We run on renewable energy. We run apprenticeship programs. We do lots of work experience. We're a radically transparent business, which means we do open book accounting, which nobody does. We're one of the first B Corps in the UK, and indeed in Europe, where we've been a certified social enterprise since 2007. There's kind of nothing that we won't do to make our business better for the environment and better for its people. One of the underpinnings of being a B Corp is that you actually have to change the legal definition of your business to ensure that shareholders are not more important than the planet or its people. So I am legally obliged to protect the environment and to not exploit anyone, which I think is quite rational. I think we should all be doing that.
Yes.
But that's, for us, what the definition of an impact business is it's one whose the reason for being is to make the world fundamentally better. And that's a struggle. It means that you're challenging yourself every day. But we also say that, that might be challenging you every day, but goodness gracious, do we ever sleep at night? We have no conscience issues as a result.
Wow, that's fantastic. I'm very excited to know that you are a B Corp business, and you have fundamentally integrated this nature of social impact in your business. It's probably worth mentioning at this point, because one of the most common questions we receive from applicants and also from fellows is this idea of our selection criteria of embedded social and environmental impact. And in this criteria, we specifically add the word embedded in it. And then that's usually the one like, why do you guys call it embedded? And we often tell applicants and fellows that, well, we wanted to add specifically this word embedded because we want to look for businesses which, like yours, Kresse, is intentionally created to create social and environmental change and also have sustainable business practices embedded within the business. So it's really great to hear and see your business that basically walks the talks of what we are aspiring to create more of in the world. So, okay, our next question for you is around sort of what kind of applicants, as part of being on the jury, that based on what you have seen so far, are great applicants and to become a fellow.
Certainly what's really wonderful about the juries, and I've met most of the people in the regional juries last year, and then this year kind of virtually, is that they're made up of a great wonderful diverse group of people who are all looking for unique things. And what that means is that you have to be a very well-rounded in not just as an individual, but in your business. So we're certainly looking for people whose spirit of generosity extends beyond their business. They want to do this not just because they want to be a successful entrepreneur, but they want to be part of, increasing the welfare of their community and helping to raise the voices of female entrepreneurs around the world. Because, there are still many countries where women cannot open their own bank account and cannot set up a company from scratch, and that's not right. And so we really want to find people who are supportive of that broader mission to bring women into the foreground of business. But we also then look at very technical things like, is your business sound? Is it financially structured well? Because I always say that for us, money is like WD-40. It's not why we do anything, but if there was no grease in the wheels, we would grind to a halt. The fact that we make a profit means that we continue to have permission to pretty much do as much good as we want. So
Yeah.
we want to find businesses where they're not going to constantly be struggling for cash flow. We want to make sure they haven't got any of the fundamentals wrong in how their pricing structure works or what their approach to the market is. So yes, you have to be a world-class entrepreneur as well as a world-class human being.
Yes.
And that's and actually pretty much everyone I've met through this whole program has got a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
So your business has to be sound, and then we of course are looking for this idea of embedded social impact. And for me, embedded means that if you took the social or environmental impact out, the business dies.
Yeah.
It has to be fundamental to the future progress of what of your business. It can't be something that an investor could come in and strip away. It has to be absolutely at the core of what you do. So those are the three things for me. And there, of course, what's tough is that actually those can be subjective,
Yeah.
because people interpret those things in different ways. However, I highly recommend all of you to read through the criteria that Cartier supplies, which is how the business plans and presentations are judged, because that is definitely the biggest component, and every jury member works very hard to understand the criteria and to apply it as objectively as possible across the businesses that we review.
Great. Well, thank you. So maybe any advice or tips to be shared with this year's applicants?
Yeah, absolutely. So some years we see businesses that maybe should have waited a year before they applied. So we see businesses that are doing something incredibly great, and we know what the potential is, and we know that it's just about ready to take off. But if you'd had that plus a year's worth of sales, it would have been so much more compelling.
Yeah.
So and actually, I think that's really important to look at the criteria and to say, actually, if I have some trading behind me and I can show progress in not just the progress of my idea, but traction within the market, it will really strengthen your application. So don't apply this year if you really think that next year would be better for you. But equally, don't be afraid to apply this year if you've got some market traction. And particularly if you think that over the next 6 months, you're going to make a lot of progress. Because what the jury loves to see, and particularly this year was fascinating, some of the applicants that we were looking at have done so well despite coronavirus.
Yeah.
They have pivoted their business models. They've shifted to being online. They've gone crazy on Zoom. And when you see that level of flexibility and adaptation in an early stage business, you just know that that is someone who's going to succeed in the long term, because they have the right kind of dynamic approach that you need when you're running a business. Because if it's not going to be coronavirus, it's going to be climate change, it's going to be a recession, it's going to be an structural industry failure. There's always going to be challenges to deal with as an entrepreneur.
Great. Yes, terrific. I could not agree with more. I think, especially on this point, on entrepreneurs waiting for traction and applying. Also, another details to share with everybody is also that actually we have many of the fellows who makes it into the program. Usually, we certainly have had quite a few where this is their second application. So, to the extent that you apply 1 year and did not make it, and then make more progress in your business and you apply again, that is also, an opportunity that you should explore if that's the right one. So, okay, without further ado, maybe we should start looking at the various questions that has come in. So it looks like we have about 10 questions, and let me just read them out loud, and then we can see who might be a good person to answer. All right. So the first question is, my business is an educational platform that teaches science through cooking. Ooh, that sounds fun. Although there's a lot of R&D involved, the technology itself might not be considered groundbreaking. Sorry, groundbreaking, and we're not launching a new algorithm. Do we still qualify as an innovative technology? Um,
I think, I mean,
mhm.
not all of the applicants are not all of the technologies that we see are patentable technologies. A lot
Yeah.
of people are making use of existing infrastructure. What we're looking for is a business that has the potential to really break through and deliver change. And if you are breaking through and delivering change on old technology, then that's fine. And actually, in some parts of the world, that's more important because not everybody has the latest gadgets and has the bandwidth
Yes.
to be able to, even in, I have to say, even in rural Kent, what we're discovering with this virus is that there's a lot of patchy broadband in the UK. So certainly I think it doesn't necessarily have to be the latest algorithm, but it does have to be a business that is really going to break through and deliver change.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think certainly, I think this business sounds like it's one that should apply in the regional category,
Yeah.
and then I agree like with the innovation piece. It's especially businesses we have seen so many throughout the years, Kresse. I'm sure you have too, which is business that are deploying specifically targeting the last mile or bottom of the pyramid to create social change, and that specifically usually is not the latest technology, and most it may have appeared other parts of the world already, but it's
Mm,
still very relevant and very impactful.
yeah.
So our next question is, if we have registered in 2018 and sorry. Ooh, when someone types in a question, it keeps on flashing on the bottom. Sorry. If we have registered in 2018 and in operations with revenue for 11 months and 21 days by the timeline, would you consider that we meet the 1 year operations rule? Um, hmm. By the specific timeline.
I mean, I
Uh,
think you don't want to apply too early and get
yeah,
knocked back on a technicality. Um, it's okay to trust me. It's okay to wait a year. You know, there's some
yeah,
businesses that have been running for 3, 4, 5 years before they um, and that's because often when, especially when you're live testing an idea, it changes. once
yeah.
once you start getting your first customer feedback, your idea changes and it gets better, it improves. So sometimes you should give yourself that time.
Yes, I would agree too. I think, especially, I think we see also in the various evaluation of the jury, oftentimes the entrepreneur, one of our evaluation criteria is around product market fit, right? And so
Mm,
to the extent that you have a longer time period of customer validation and also just more data and insight of what your customer and the people, the beneficiaries you're serving is looking for, I think that will make your case a bit stronger. So yeah, I would agree. Also in this case, perhaps wait 1 more year and collect a bit more revenue and use case and validation. That might be a good way of proceeding.
mm.
In our next question, in the preparation document, equity is keep on skipping. Equity is clearly defined by your group as purchase of shares. How should non-debt convertible note be treated? They are not yet on the cap table, but there are no other place to capture the investment other than in equity or cap table sections. Um, hmm.
This is not one I can help you with.
Yeah, so in our application form, I think we asked for let's see if I remember this correctly. There's different questions as it pertains to the amount of investment raised. And so I think it should be filled in. So convertible notes should be mentioned in there. Um, so I agree with you that it's not yet on the cap table, but I do believe there's a question specifically on asking about the amount of dilutive investments. And so I think you should include that as part of that, the answer to that question.
The best advice for any question like that is
Yeah.
there will always be a written component where you can add notes. I, from memory, there was always a section where you could add more detail,
Yeah.
and just be 100% transparent and honest. and nobody's going to judge you for how your business got to, people take friends and family rounds, people, they might have offered equity to their postman, who knows, but just be upfront about it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and I suppose also maybe that's a great thing you mentioned, because the spirit of the question, let me, because that's probably the most important thing to understand. The spirit of the questions around cap tables or equity is, one, we want to make sure that the company is still majority woman owned. And also the founder or the leading leadership position as a woman also has a large equity, ownership stake in the company. And so those things are really important to us. And then, of course, our eligibility criteria is that you have raised less than 2 million in dilutive funding. So, so that is also an important component for us to include. And that's why we asked the question.
Yeah.
All right. So this question is, so actually I own a business in Bangladesh, and it is an import business. I import various items from US, UK, and other countries. So can I apply here?
I would say probably not, because the impact that you're creating comes from the products that are being made. So if you also had products and services that you were developing, but this is generally, we have never seen an import-export business come through. We're looking for businesses that are directly engaged in the change rather than adjacent to the change, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I would say so also. And I wasn't sure if the question was also, can I apply here being the Bangladesh or the location, but overall I would agree with Kresse in the sense that this sounds like it's a business that's adjacent to the change that's being created, as opposed to actually producing the change. Okay. Oh, okay. So now there's more question. I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay. I registered the company in 2010 to work on another project. Activity did not begin. So 2010, which is, so 10 years ago. This has not been documented in the company. In 2016, I came up with an idea and started implementing it. Thus, the project itself is less than 5 years old. There are documents confirming this patent for the invention, but the company is more than 5 years old. Can I participate in the competition? Unfortunately, no. You have passed the eligibility criteria of 5 years, and so this would not be workable for us. We're looking for early stage companies at the early stage of formation, and so you sound like you're a company that has been up and running, and then in 2016, with a new idea. So yeah. Okay, our next question. If the business has been in operation for more than 5 years, but recently pivoted, does that qualify as within 1 to 5 year requirement? Okay, it sounds very similar. So unfortunately, our answer for this is also no, because it's more than the 5 years of requirements. What is the average amount of sales generated by most of your fellows?
Ooh, I would say there's almost no average here, because it really depends on the kind of industry that you're in. And some industries, the sales figures are really, really high, but so are the costs behind them. And some, the figures are lower, but the profitability is much higher. There has been a very, very big disparity. Some companies are doing hundreds of thousands, and some companies are doing tens of thousands. And that's not how we judge it. It's not like, oh, well, this one has got a higher turnover. That's never come up in a conversation that a higher turnover company should win. It's about whether the company is structured for longevity, and whether the impact is embedded and will scale as the business scales.
Yes, exactly. So it's really the sustainability of the financial. I definitely agree with that. And then, okay, so I think we have answered that one. At the Cartier Women Initiative workshop in Russia, Miss
Mm.
Sampaio, okay, that was me, Kresse, said that companies with the status of individual entrepreneurs will not be able to take part in the program or competition. And then in Russia, 50% of the small businesses are registered as individual entrepreneurs. And furthermore, individual entrepreneurs can have up to 100 employees. Is it really impossible to take part in the program as a registered individual entrepreneurs, as an individual IE? And so unfortunately, the answer is still no. And so basically, as we understand the structure, is that individual entrepreneurs are similar to a sole proprietorship
Sole trader.
model in the US, or I guess sole trading in the UK.
Yeah.
And sort of our understanding of the business structure is that most businesses, as they grow, they will have to become limited liability companies. And while we are focused on early stage company, we are looking for companies who have grown to the stage where they are sort of protected as a company against external liability, and that the formation of the company itself is a bit more mature. And so this is the reason why we haven't accepted individual entrepreneurs or sole proprietorship or other type of similar structures around the world as part of the awards in the program. It's basically, we're looking for a certain level of maturity in terms of the business formation aspects of it.
Yeah.
Kresse, do you have anything to add to this?
No, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Next question is, I started my business in September 2019. So that is fall. Oh, okay. So 9 months ago, and is currently generating traction. I have a great sales pipeline of project in the next 6 months. Am I eligible to apply this year? Unfortunately, so by July 31st of this year, you would still be less than a year old. So we would ask and encourage you to apply next year so that you have a bit more traction and momentum and customer validation, as Kresse mentioned earlier, for the cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We had another question very similar around imports. And so I think the question we answered earlier was probably similar. Okay. Oh, could Cartier open a new category for best business startup less than a year? Especially now with COVID, where we need to create our own job and take a chance on the market, and for a genuine startup award like this could actually motivate and inspire the business. It's really interesting. So for us at Cartier, we have, the notion of supporting and creating the Cartier Women Initiative is business as a force for good. And the reason why we have created the requirement of 1 to 5 years and also 1 year revenue is because we wanted to look for businesses that have been able to prove that their business model is sustainable. And that's why we need some of this data and traction and customer validation. And so at the genesis of our program is this idea that we're hoping someone to leverage business as a force for good and have been able to prove that they have some traction around this. And this is why, even though we're focusing on early stage businesses, we do look for the ones that have actually survived and have build up some momentum around this, as opposed to the very early stage idea or incubation phase type of projects.
And let me sort of add to that as to why I think that makes a lot of sense, is that Cartier, further to just, it's not just a business plan competition. This is a fellowship program where you get all kinds of further training, further education. And if you are still in those very early phases, as in not yet a year old, you won't, I remember the first year of my business, I would not have had the time to take advantage of all of these amazing opportunities that Cartier offers. I only had the time to do that once, we were big enough to have a bit of a team, some people to take off day-to-day pressure so that I could go to Paris, I could go to Deauville, I could participate in the educational opportunities. So it's really so that the Cartier can invest more in you. So actually, I think it's really important to stick with the 1 to 5 years.
Yes, for the regional awards, that's very important. Yes. Here's another question we have. should you translate, should we translate the documents that they attach into the application form into English, and should they be notarized? The documents should be translated into English. So the items that we ask for, whatever you submit should be in English, because unfortunately, while many of the reviewers of the application speaks multiple language, we do get, application from 56 countries, as you can see, at least. And so it would be best for it to be in English so that we can all understand and make sure we can validate your content. And then they do not need to be notarized. So that should be okay. We have a question here around the Science and Technology Pioneer Award, which is a new one, and rather they can be in operation for more than 5 years. And the answer to that question is yes. So the Science and Technology Pioneer Award is different in terms of its eligibility criteria, because it is targeting businesses that requires a lot of R&D, a long commercialization cycle, and also heavy capital investment. And this is one of the reasons why for the Science and Technology Pioneer Award, we're specifically looking for ideas that are truly innovative and pioneering, and so oftentimes have patents and etc. associated with it, and many years of research and development. And then also, as a result of that, potentially the business would have been started a long time ago, and then a long cycle of R&D before commercialization. And so that is why we have it in operations for more than 5 years. And then, of course, they might also require a lot of R&D investment that is beyond just traditional research grants in science and technology. So maybe they have would have had to work with a lot of corporate venture already just to get the idea into the prototype phase. And this is why we have the Science and Pioneer Award. For example of what a business like that looks like, you can look at one of our past fellows from the last edition, Ananda Device, who was founded by Margaret in Canada. She was one of the fellows in North America. Her company definitely is someone who would have been part of the Science and Technology Pioneer Award. She basically have dedicated her life in terms of research in this type of science, and then created a company to leverage that science and technology. Another good example is Sun Bioscience in Switzerland, also from the last edition. And so Silke and her co-founder have also, again, been working on a series of scientific innovation that is, also requires long R&D cycles and etc. So those are some good examples to take a look at, so that to see if you are similar to those type of businesses in terms of rather you'd be in a similar category. Here's a question we have. What is the percentage of advisory service businesses awarded the fellowship opportunity? Advisory service business.
Actually, we had one last year, because it was a consulting and advising on new energy systems.
Yes, Vivid Edge. Yes.
Yes. So it depends. It depends if you are what the advisory company that was doing last year was, they were actually delivering enormous climate benefit by creating new and innovative ways for their customers to completely disengage with fossil fuel based energy systems, lighting systems, etc., heating systems. But they weren't just giving people a standard package of advice. They had come up with not just the guidance on what to do, but the delivery mechanism to make it happen. So I just go back to the embedded impact criteria. If you feel that actually the advisory, that there is an advisory business model that can truly deliver change, then it's worth a shot, and it's worth going to one of your local meetings, or it's worth dropping an email to someone from your country who was in a past edition, because most of the people are up for that. It's worth talking through your business model with some friends, and then asking them to go through the Cartier criteria and think if your model does indeed apply.
Yeah. Great answer. We have another question here around, I applied last year but did not hear any update including reasons for rejection or not making it last year. So unfortunately, for us, due to the volume of applications that we receive, we're unable to get back to everyone in regards to the reason for not making it into the final 80, and then eventually the final 24 into the fellowship program. But that said, I think we have just shared, in my presentation, a bit of the timeline. And so you'll know that if you don't hear from us basically by end of the year, then probably you have not made it into the program. I do encourage you to apply again, especially since, like I mentioned before, that many of the folks in the fellowship program has, it's their second time application. And like we have been talking about during this call and this session, that building traction, building customer validation are all very key components of proving that your business model is sustainable. And so, I would encourage you to try again if you feel your business fulfills the criteria and you're the spirit of the Cartier Women Initiative. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. I think there's a few questions that is of the theme of eligibility criteria. Okay, the eligibility criteria is different between the science and technology one versus the regional awards. And so we have gone through that. And so I will just let you can go to our website to take a look at the specific details. You have further questions. But in a nutshell, the science and technology award basically do not require the $2 million in diluted funding. You can have more than that if you were in that category. It also removes the 1 to 5 years of business in operation, and it also removes the 1 year of revenue requirement. And again, because the Science and Technology Award specifically is in a space of deep tech, where a lot of the characteristics of the space basically doesn't fit with these eligibility criteria that we have as part of the regional awards. But that said, the Science and Technology Award is also looking for really pioneering science and technology, right? So something of an invention by a woman, and long works of R&D towards that work. Okay, let's see. I think, have we answered everything?
Can't possibly be.
Okay. We can talk more about the eligibility evaluation criteria. I'm sorry. We have a question here around, I see the criteria for evaluation includes embedded positive social impact, market analysis and fit, sustainable business and financial model, strategy and execution, leadership and character, and commitment to the Cartier Women Initiative program. Can you expand on each of these criteria? Kresse, you want to take some of them and I'll fill in some?
Sure. So commitment to the Cartier program is that because Cartier is offering more than just the award, they're offering educational opportunities, networking opportunities, and I can't tell you enough, the thing that will make a business succeed in the long run is building a network, finding people who can support you, finding people that you can learn from, finding people that you can help. The part of the reason why Elvis and Kresse has been successful is that we have an unbelievable network of stakeholders behind us, and many of them we have found from this wider Cartier community. If you aren't up for participating in that, if you like to hide in your room and do everything over the internet, this is really not the program for you. So that's that one. The other one is like the outstanding team. We do look at the CVs of the team. We do look at how they work together. We do look at what their track record might have been. We do look at the sort of, we have a lot of questions around, is it how committed they are to their particular cause. There was someone this year who was absolutely so committed to her cause that she had spent months interviewing the people that she was trying to impact. She hadn't just developed an idea by herself in a dark room. She had developed it with the end beneficiary, and she was continuing to iterate with the end beneficiary. She loves this problem. She's going to be doing it for the rest of her life. We loved her. So that, there's a lot around team. Market fit, that's to do really like, are you trying to tackle a huge problem, and do you have the bandwidth to do that? Or are you going to tackle a niche problem and you're just going to be amazing at it? We want to see if your business is structured in order to achieve that. Some businesses we see are way too ambitious. They'll say like, oh, I'm going to take on Coca-Cola and I'm going to achieve 20% of the market share in the next year. And you just think, well, you know, Pepsi's been trying to do that for a long time. So we would only go for a business like that if we thought really they had something so innovative and so amazing, and that they really had a shot. So we look at how realistic people are with their projections, and you know, the jury is from across the market, and there are a lot of people who've invested in startups, who've built huge startups. So this is a very experienced group of people. They understand how to read business plans. And then there's obviously the embedded social impact. I would say that's my strong area. You know, we never has it made it through to the final three where there's a company where kind of the mission is an add-on. The mission is the mission has to be 100% part of the business. You know, we've talked about that a lot on this call. That's a huge one that's weighted very highly because that is the nature of this. This is not just a business plan competition, which is the most profitable business. That's not interesting to anyone, not in 2020, not when we have climate change and a global pandemic. So that's not at all what we're looking for. So those are those areas, I think. What am I missing? What am I missing?
Market and product fit. Did we talk about that one?
Yeah, I mean, market and product fit is, again, has to do with the structure of the business. And it's just saying, is this the right approach? Is this going to break through? There's the criteria, really read them, really understand them. And actually, what you should be doing at this stage is looking at your business in relationship to those criteria. Because if you're good in all of those areas, it will actually help your business to be more successful overall. You could use this this criteria. You could use this entire Cartier template as a way to actually improve the business you've got. It might show you that you've got holes in your team. It might show you that you have an issue with your approach to the market. So you know, these are the kind of criteria that all successful businesses have or can meet.
Yeah. And I guess the only one that we haven't really touched on that much is strategy and execution, perhaps.
Yeah, strategy and execution. That's why we're all encouraging you, some of you who want to apply this year, to wait a year. Because if we don't have enough evidence to see how you're actually pivoting, you know, meeting new demand, meeting new challenges, you know, if someone just came with I've got this brand new prototype and I haven't tested it on the market yet and no one's ever bought one, well, we don't know what you can execute yet. We don't know if you can sell yet. We don't know, you know, if your market wants to see this product. So yeah, we need to see how, if you're capable, because a great idea is just an idea. Execution is what makes a business. So we definitely need to see evidence that you and your team can adapt to change, can, you know, deliver sales, can deliver impact. We need to see that things have happened. We can see really easily through ideas, pure ideas.
Okay, great. It looks like we have a few raised hands. Maybe we can, Maggie, we can unmute one of them, and then we can hear directly from sort of what are some questions we have outstanding. Oh, so we have a question from Rana. Hello, Rana. Oh, I think we still haven't been able to hear her yet. She's still on mute. Uh-oh. Oh, Rana. And then we also have Nina, who's
Rana
also,
and Nina, we can't hear them.
yes. So maybe one moment. I wonder how. Okay, while they're being unmuted, maybe, here's some more questions on this end. What are some impact metrics you use to determine whether a business truly embeds impact? Maybe I could start on the answer for that first. And so for us, we're not prescribing any types of impact metrics, but rather that you have created the business with the intention of creating impact. And so the intention aspects of it is really important for us. And then the other aspects of it is that in order for you to execute upon your intention, you have to try to measure it in some way. And in fact, a big part of our program actually will help you with impact measurement. So as part of the Cartier Women Initiative program, it includes a scholarship to INSEAD Social Entrepreneurship Program. And a big part of that program is teaching how to measure impact. And so we are hoping that you have started in some way of measuring the impact, but maybe, measuring impact it's tough work, and it's an evolutionary process for any company over time. And so, we will look at rather you've started measuring impact as an indication also of your intentionality. We'll look at how your business model was designed as a measure of intentionality, but we don't prescribe to you specific impact metrics by any means. And we also don't, we won't hold it against you if you have developed a different measure, or your measure of impact evolves over time, because as you learn more and more about your user and beneficiary, you will find new ways of really capturing what is really the change that you're trying to create. So so focus on the intentionality, and then share with us how you've been measuring it so far. And we know that it's a sort of work in progress always. Kresse, how would you answer that question?
In much the same way, it's Elvis and Kresse, we measure our impact based on a couple of different things. There's two very hard metrics for us. We rescue materials, so we weigh them. That one's quite easy because we have a scale. We put the material on the scale. We've rescued more than 250 tons of material since we started. And the second metric is also quite hard. We donate 50% of our profits to charity. And last year that was more than 70,000 pounds, and it goes up significantly every year. So I think what's quite interesting about that is that we're not just measuring then that hard number, but then with our charity partners we see what that does. So we also create scholarships for female solar engineers, and again, that beneficiary, Barefoot College, we met through the Cartier network. And we know that when you train a woman to become a solar engineer with Barefoot, that they're changing the energy future of 250 people at least. So there's the harder, narrow impacts that we have, and then we look at the broader impacts. Then we also look at things like life cycle analysis. We measure our entire footprint of all of our products through the supply chain. We look at how many work experience opportunities and apprenticeships that we're able to create. We look at how much renewable energy we used as opposed to fossil fuel energy. So yeah, I think there's lots of things that you want to measure. And once you get into it, you can become a complete geek about it. And actually, most of the entrepreneurs in my peer group, we literally none of us care about money, but we're all trying to be the most good, which is a whole heck of a lot better way to compete with each other, I have to say.
Oh, that's fantastic. It looks like we were able to unmute the raised hand. So
Great.
Is it Nihi? Can you share your question?
Thank you, Wingee. I have actually raised question which I think you have answered now. It's already that I applied last year and I didn't make it. And very clearly you mentioned that perhaps I'm not meeting some of the criteria, or perhaps there is some element of creating impact, as you are mentioning, out of those factors are required. But however, I will look at more deeply. But if you kindly put your responses in the FAQs or somewhere to give the directions that are the objective of the full program is to basically to meet the objectives, which is social objectives as well, besides the work. So that is very important, so that while working on certain sectors in India, so maybe we are already focusing on those areas which create social impact, but maybe our focus is again towards more delivering projects to the clients, right?
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Sure. Yes, we can put that into FAQ so that others can have greater clarity. Yeah. And for us, when we have it in the eligibility criteria that you're meeting one of the UNSDG goals, that was sort of our intention. But we certainly thank you for the suggestion, and we'll add it to the FAQ.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
So I think the next person we have is Layla. Layla, can you share with us your question?
Sure. Yes. Hi. Very nice to meet you, and thank you for the talk. So my question, I had the first question where I asked you about innovation and technology, and you talked about, as long as I'm talking about changing the business or making an impact. But I wanted to make sure you knew my question. I'm applying for the science and technology track.
Okay.
So does that still apply, or would your answer differ? Is technology innovation more important now?
I think my answer would probably differ because
Okay.
yours sounds more like you should be applying to the mainstream program, because as Wingee was saying, the science and technology one is really for people who've come up with something really completely new and who've worked on groundbreaking research that's delivering. And actually, I would love to apply for this in a couple of years, because right now Elvis and Kresse is designing the world's first entirely renewably powered microforge to rescue street aluminum, and it's something we've been working on for 3 or 4 years. We've got academic partners. It's like a life's project that I will not be able to deliver in a 5-year time frame, and if it works, it's a huge scientific. If it works, it's a huge scientific development, not for us but for mankind. I think that's. So you've really got to think of the innovation.
Let me just tell you more, because we have been working for 6 years on this, so I cannot apply to the other one. And we are heavily research focused. We are funded by the National Science Foundation R&D grant. And we're also now being invited by both Canadian and American government to apply for additional research, because they're very much interested in our research. But the innovation, and I do have a patent, but the innovation is more on the pedagogy in learning science versus technology. Like the platform that we're using is not the latest, algorithm.
But learning science is still a science. So So then it's worth applying. If you're it's not the hard technology and soft technology are both technology. If someone could come up with a way to convince everyone to buy less through sort of a mental some sort of game that we could all learn how to play, and then the world consumed less and we were less bad for the environment, I think that would definitely win.
So my research focus is that we are trying to prove that if women and minorities are taught science in culturally and gender relevant ways, then they would show an interest in science. The reason that girls drop out of STEM topic is because most of the curriculum is created by male, content creators. So that's kind of like the research hypothesis we have. So that's what we're trying to prove. And it does take more than 5 years to have all the academic validation.
The evidence. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's perhaps your research is something new and innovative. I think it sounds like if it's something that is patentable, I think it's a good sign of it being a good classification for the science and technology category. But the science, I guess, is in the pedology, right? I guess, that you're sharing with us about.
Yes, thank you. And I have one more question, sorry. So did I understand it correctly that for the science track, you have to take, that the product has to take 2 years to get ready? So if ours is getting ready, hopefully the next MVP should be out in 9 months, then does that disqualify us, or is it okay if it's coming out in 9 months and then testing and stuff for the following year?
But it sounds like, though, when you were sharing with me, the research piece of this has taken much longer time, right?
Yes.
So I think we're looking at the whole cycle, right? So if you think about it, we specifically included some more clarification around those dimensions, because precisely in the regional category, we are 1 to 5 years, right, of business and operation. And so in the science and technology category, pioneer category, we don't have that. And so we're trying to explain that, hey, we're looking for things that basically requires a lot of R&D and a lot of time of commercialization, takes a long time. So that's a sort of another way of indication. And it sounds like yours was because you had to develop the science around teaching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm thinking of applying for the science and technology one. I'm a bit not sure because we're developing, it basically started in line with the corona season. So basically what happened is my dad went on holiday and he got a bit ill while he was away. And so he had to have treatment, he had to go to the hospital. And because like Kresse, I live in Kent, so I understand about the whole no internet and stuff. It's a bit of a hard work there, but I have access to his health records. So before he went to the hospital, I was asking everyone they need to be careful what they give him in case they mess up his existing medication, etc., etc. And so obviously, like your children do, we have to be their PAs. So I sorted out his insurance, and so basically what I did was I came up with a solution called the digital medical certificate, and we're currently working on the moment, and we're just finishing off the architecture, and we potentially might have some traction from insurance companies. And what it is that when you travel, you'll be able to have your medical records accessed in real time via the use of a blockchain solution. So it means that if, for example, you're based in Kent and you're traveling consistently, and for whatever reason you fall ill, currently it's very difficult for the doctors to access your actual medical records. Whereas now, if you were to take out insurance, your insurance company would then request access to your medical records. So when you go into a hospital, you'd be able to receive, they'd be able to give you the appropriate treatment and look at your existing medical history to ensure that if you have any allergies, you might be allergic to penicillin, you might have pre-existing medical conditions. But it was similar to what the lady said about having something in a year. So obviously, because it happened because of Corona, and he ended up staying a bit longer than expected, and obviously because of the flight thing, that's basically where the solution came from. So we're at the point where we're applying for funding. So there's a group of us that are doing it, and I'm the lead person, so it's my idea. So I've got some partners and stuff on board to help with the blockchain solution, the user-centered design, and all the rest of that stuff. And then we're going to register it as a B Corp to ensure that it's sustainable, and we've got checks and balances over capitalism. Otherwise, it can just go a bit crazy.
I think, can we just sort of, because it's a very detailed, because obviously there's a lot of people. I think I think I would wait for next year because it's too soon. It sounds like an interesting idea. I know there's a lot of people who are working on digital signatures. There's some B Corps. You should look at Yoti, for example, as a way of proving who you are in lots of different situations. But I know it's not a signature. I totally understand that it's a way for your medical records to find you where you are, but I just think it's too soon I know for a category that we are going to be looking at what you have absolutely been able to deploy in the market and how that's worked. And given when the application forms first have to be in by, you won't have the time between now and then to really show how it's been deployed and worked. Whereas if you wait for next year, you will have ample opportunity to have done that. You just won't, but just because if you think about when the application forms have to be in by, you won't have time between now and the end of July to
that's fine.
Deploying it.
Yeah, Christine, I would also suggest waiting 1 year. I think your rate of success will be better, and also you will benefit more from the program that way. Yeah. But thank you for the great idea during COVID, and bravo for starting something new and creating social change amidst the pandemic. Yes. Oh, and Christine, please make sure to visit our Cartier Women Initiative website. In our blog section, we have a lot of COVID-related resources for entrepreneurs. And I think amazing. Based on the idea that you're talking about, there may be other resources that's more geared towards the beginning of the idea incubation phase. That might be more appropriate.
So thank you so much.
Check that out. Yeah,
I will. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Hi. Okay, awesome. This is exciting. So my question is in regards, it's kind of a different approach, but we are tiny home builders and we're looking to fix our local housing crisis with the inflated cost of land, cost of housing. We have a homeless problem here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And really, I mean, that is happening everywhere. So my question is in regards to finding funding for these tiny houses. We have models built that are affordable to build, affordable for folks to actually purchase, but finding the finances is the hardest part. We can't offer, 20-year mortgages on these tiny homes. So we wanted to approach your initiative by asking the question, can these funds be used to actually fund folks to get them in affordable housing using the existing housing fabric? So we're not going to be coming in to build any sort of development. This is for folks that would have a place to put the home within maybe a backyard or some already owned land.
I guess your business has to be structurally sound on its own. However, if your business is structurally sound and you are able to, to run yourself on a profitable basis, because this isn't for sort of charities or not for profits, then of course you can use the award for whatever you want. And actually, in the year that we won, we bought a laser because we wanted this we'd always wanted this tool to help us with so much of the R&D that we have, and it unlocked. And Cartier never asked what we were going to. They just understood, because we were impact driven, that of course we were going to spend it on having the biggest impact for our business. And if the biggest impact in Vegas is to jumpstart what you're doing by putting that into practice, then I think everyone would celebrate that.
Absolutely. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, so the funding is as a grant to your business specifically, and so how the business use it, we do ask now actually for use of funds and etc. So so going forward, you will have to, if you were accepted into the program and you are awarded with the money, you do have to do some reporting, but it's once every 6 months or something like this. But exactly what you described here would I think qualify for it. And many of the businesses that we work with do have financing components to their business, to their beneficiaries or users. So it seems to make perfect sense.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And I think we will try to post and add as we get more questions from the audience, and also just even from our overall Cartier Women Initiative inbox, we will be updating the FAQ. And so as you prepare your application, please feel free to check the FAQ for further answers to your questions and how to prepare your applications. There will also be additional sessions on Ask Me Anything throughout the summer. So feel free to also tune in at that time as you work on your application if you have further questions. And so with that, thank you so much, Kresse, for making the time today to join us in this Ask Me Anything session. It was terrific having your perspective. And I'm really glad that we were able to answer so many questions from women all around the world. And for everyone who have dialed in, I feel like just from hearing about the questions, you guys are all doing really remarkable work. And so thank you for believing that businesses can be a force for good and to continue being the strong social and environmental change agent that you all are. So
Best
thank
of
you
luck
so
to
much, everyone.
Best of luck to everyone in
All
your
right.
applications.
Thank you. Bye-bye.